Good evening, everyone. How are you doing? And welcome to another episode of the Dr. Will Show. I am your host, Dr. Will, and I am here with Celine. Is it Ning?
Ng.
Ning. Okay, I knew I was going to mess it up. I should have asked you before we started the show.
That's right. Well, it's OHara, but my name is Ng. Ng. Nobody can say it, and my students always go, "Where's the vowel?" But there's no vowel. No, but you say every word has a vowel. Where's the vowel? So it's hilarious.
Learning something. And I should make a better practice of it because people, they mispronounce my name all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So, people, we will be talking about the state of Edtech tonight with Celine. And Celine, for those who are watching the show and they're wondering who you are tonight, will you please introduce yourself?
Okay. My name is Celine. I am actually a special ed teacher. I've been teaching for about 25 years, and about 8 years ago, our school district started to really get into EdTech. So I signed up to join the first Google cadre and learned about, Google Docs and the Drive, and then got my students Google accounts because our district was really innovative. They signed up for a secure site, and all the kids got secure accounts so we could use it within our domain alone. And it was quite amazing how well the kids took to it, especially for my students who have learning disabilities, for them to really be able to access more curriculum and use online tools to help them with their learning. It's been an incredible journey for us.
Excellent. So let's just get into it. Now, there's ISTE, there's FETSI, there's TCEA, there's Q.
Right.
Miami Device. I mean, there is the alphabet soup, Netflix, Walmart of conferences and EdTech companies out there. And we, as connected educators, see a lot of that coming through our Twitter feed as well as our own experiences attending these conferences. Where do you see the field of EdTech going?
Well, with all the stuff out there, I think EdTech should really serve the students. And right now, if you look at where EdTech is used the most, it's high school and colleges. The kids access their curriculum online through all the classroom platforms like Haiku Deck, like using Classroom or using Blackboard. I think eventually all students should be able to access their curriculum from anywhere. There are places in the world now where students are learning from remote places, like in Australia and India, or like Dr. Sugata Mitra, where he started the schools in the cloud and all the soul pods where the kids are learning to take control of their learning. I think that's where it's going, where it should really serve our students.
Okay, so what company, and it's interesting because when we go to these conferences, you have, especially the bigger ones, you'll have this huge vendor floor where everyone is there, and they have all sort of technologies out there. And then, of course, you have Apple, and you have Google,
right,
and Microsoft, and and you have a lot of different tools that are available
right,
for students. And with these different companies, because some companies have better reputations of others of really serving teachers and students. But let's just talk about what company do you see is at the forefront of innovation and why?
Well, unfortunately, like you said, all these big corporations that you mentioned, at this point, they're the ones I notice personally out there doing all the EdTech type innovation. Technically, they weren't designed for EdTech. If you look at Google or Microsoft, they were business solutions. There were all these business suites. What's happened is educators go, wait a minute, I could totally use this in my classroom. I can totally use this with my students. So it's kind of more towards being used for EdTech purposes. And at this point in time, from what I can see out there, it's still a lot of large corporations. But I'm also noticing through my own research, there's a lot of smaller companies coming up that are getting noticed. They are getting funding. One of my favorite is Inkling. They use e-publication technology to digitize all the textbooks so the kids can use it on their tablets. You can use it on your cell phone even. And the other one is, I think it's called LearnZillion, which it's encouraging districts and schools to produce videos, of teaching like mini lessons that are common at this point, Common Core aligned, so the students can review material anywhere. They've got their own videos that are produced, or should I say presented by master teachers. But what I like from what I've read about them is they're trying to encourage teachers to use those materials to create their own videos. So I'm learning to create my own flip videos through watching the ones that they've produced. That sort of thing. I think it's where it's going and where it will be coming up more. Smaller companies that are really tailoring the tools to cater to actual educational need. That's where we're going.
Okay, so there's a lot of buzz words, okay? A lot of jargon, if you will, that is floating around. That, for those of us in the know, you hear flipped learning, you hear blended learning or going one-to-one. We all get it. But what do you see is the greatest challenge in EdTech right now?
The greatest challenge, I think it's twofold. One is there are a lot of schools or districts or people who said, oh, they're doing EdTech, they're using EdTech. What they find is they don't have a clear, what I call a strategic plan to be able to roll it out to make sure all the kids get access to it equitably and use it correctly. You have to have a plan. And sometimes there are schools have jumped on it and they bought all the Chromebooks, they bought all the iPads. And then the teachers go, well, what do I do with it? The training hasn't caught up with them. The other one that I've encountered as a tech coach in my district is fear. A lot of teachers are like, well, I don't know what to do. Or the kids know more, I don't want to look stupid. And I always say, you know what? Get down in there and try it with them. And what I found is I tell the kids outright, this is something new, here's a new app, I've never used it, let's try it together. And they're really excited when you say, let's try it together. So I think we need to get over the fear factor of using EdTech and just, really get in there and try it. Let the kids take over if you have to. Let the kids take charge of the learning. Let the kids try it out and show you what to do. I think that has more meaning for them too.
Okay, so which people in the field inspire you the most, and what have you taken from their work that you actually implement in your own practice?
Oh. Actually, the people who really inspire me, besides all the experts you learn from, are the teachers. The teachers right in the trenches, in the classroom, doing the work. Because then you actually hear about how they're doing it, what they're doing, what works, what doesn't work. And sometimes, like with Google Classroom, when they first rolled it out, it really sucked. And a lot of the stuff didn't work really well. Teachers didn't like a lot of the features. But a lot of the teachers were encouraged to give feedback. So many of the new features that Google Classroom now has came from teacher feedback. Like we wanted to be able to create groups and share classrooms, and we'll make changes to the way it looks and not be so static and just cookie cutter format like they've had. So a lot of the changes that's coming through are from teachers. So I think teachers are the people I learn the most from, and surprisingly the students. If you let them do the work, they will show you how things can be done differently. And I learned a lot of interesting new ways to use the apps that I didn't know could be done with the kids just from them doing it. It's mostly the people out there doing it.
Okay, so what are people missing in the conversation between tools and pedagogy? And are people being short-sighted when they align themselves to a specific tool?
Oh, absolutely. I tell a lot of new teachers I work with that because a lot of the newer teachers coming in, they all know the tools. They're all these young teachers who are digital natives. They grew up with the technology. So they're really excited about it. Like, you know what? People, you have to remember, pedagogy has to drive the tools, not the other way around. You know, good teaching practice is always going to be good teaching practice. Tools are useful. Tools allow kids to access more stuff. Tools enhance learning, but a good teacher is key. Good teaching has to be key to how you use these tools. It's like I was explaining to a teacher a while ago. I said, you know, when they first invented the car, 100 so years ago, there were no rules, there were no roads. People just did whatever they wanted to do. It can't be that way. We have to have a plan. You have to use good practice using the tools. Same thing now. That's why we have all these traffic rules, and that same thing with technology. We have to have good rules for using them. Otherwise, they'd be useless. You know, just glittery stuff, nice, fancy, you know, bling bling, so to speak. Yeah.
That's a tweetable, y'all. Bling bling. So I'm going to approach this subject with you. I mentioned it sort of beforehand. This was inspired. Well, it's been part of my observation and part of my experiences over the past 3 years of presenting at conferences across the state. Well, my state of Mississippi, as well as doing some online conferences as well. And recently it popped up after watching Refranz Davis' latest blog post on diversity in Edtech. There is a serious lack of diversity in Edtech, particularly not only at the companies, but when you look at the actual vendors that you see at the conferences, even when you look at the people who present at these conferences, whether it be panels, sessions, or headliners, or keynote speakers. What are your thoughts about the lack of diversity? Do you, I mean, personally, does it sort of resonate with you, or do you look at it and say, well, I don't know how this issue came up. I don't see any malice with it, but you know, there is a problem that needs to be addressed.
I personally think part of the problem is a lot of the people who are really innovating are teachers, and most teachers don't want to be in the limelight. They don't want to be put in the spotlight, so we don't hear about them. And then, but companies are the one with money who go out there and present their stuff, to go out there and tell other people about what they're doing. So until we make teachers comfortable in saying, you know, we're just sharing, there's no right or wrong to what we're doing, not many people are willing to share out, so to speak. The other thing is also, I think there's a lot of changes in education right now, especially in our country. There's a lot of changes, and people are nervous about whether or not their changes will be taken positively. So I think there's that hesitation there as well. Does that make sense? I mean, as a special ed teacher, I have to say that there's more innovation in the special ed field when it comes to EdTech, because they're really harnessing use of EdTech to help kids with disabilities. But we don't see as much of it with the general population, so to speak. It's still very much what's the business of it rather than the actual usefulness of it being looked at more than, you know, what kids can access. If that makes sense.
Okay. Now, this happened to me earlier this evening, which I trust me, I did not see this coming. My sister, who is a awesome teacher, and I don't say that just because she's my sister, she has been teaching for a while, has a master's degree in educational technology and a specialist in educational leadership.
Mm-hmm.
She shot me a text asking me about my job title and telling me that there is an instructional technology coach position in her district and that she's going to apply. Again, I'm shocked because my sister and I, when we get together, we never sit down and go, okay, what are your career plans? Do you want, come do what I do, right? We
Right.
just never talked about that. And she's applying for the job, and I'm like, all right, go ahead.
Good for her.
Uh, You're very excited for her. So for those people who are considering a career in educational technology,
Mm-hmm.
what is your advice for them?
Basically, keep an open mind and learn, learn, learn. I mean, you and I both know what you know today and what you've learned today, it's very likely to be obsolete maybe tomorrow, even next week. And there's so much out there. And, as an educational technologist, you have to be really picky. There's so much out there, and a lot of them are similar. You have to find different ones that would target different skills or goals or outcomes you want for the students. There's so many things out there that do the same thing. But at the same time, for yourself, just keep an open mind, stay connected. I mean, I've learned so much from LPLN on Twitter, on Facebook. Just, keep an open mind, stay connected with all sorts of educators, and just keep learn, learn, learn. That's the biggest thing.
Awesome. You're definitely right about that. It's one of those things, you want to say, thank you, Google, for all the changes you make. Because last year, or no, year before last, I did a training on Google Plus and with Google Hangouts with teachers.
Right.
A month later, they did a redesign. And I'm saying to myself, mother, because those same teachers, if they did not go on Google Plus to kind of really play around with it and they stepped back, once they went back and saw it totally different, a lot of them would just walk away because it does not look like it did when they were trained to use it.
Yeah.
And so you are definitely right when you say, keep on it.
Yep.
And keep learning because that is definitely a key sticking point to the job. Again, I would like to thank you, Celine, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime you want to come back, just let me know. We'll come up with a topic and make this happen.
Pleasure.
Thank you, viewers, for watching another episode of the Dr. Will Show. Again, I want to remind y'all, Saturday, 9 o'clock in the morning, the Dr. Will Show will not be hosted by Dr. Will. It will be hosted by Carly Stigler. So I want you to check out that show. And again, always, people, be you, EDU. Good night.
Good night.